Welcome everyone just joining. We'll give it a few minutes, but we're here today for the membership webinar, Dual Professionalism, Redefining Excellence in Teaching and Learning with Dr. Barbara van der Ecken. And as you come in, please do put in your name, your organisation in the chat, and just one key point. What is your favourite programme that you're teaching on this year? And once the numbers are finished settling, we'll get started.
Great. Hello, everyone. I can already see some names popping up in the chats, which is great.
Northwest Ambulance Service, that's near me. Hi, everyone just joining. So we're here today for the I'm getting tongue-tied already, Dual Professionalism, Redefining Excellence in Teaching and Learning with Dr. Barbara van der Ecken, and we'll get started in just a minute. If you've just arrived, please do put your name, your organisation, and what your favourite programme you're teaching on this year. Welcome everyone. So we're here today for the Dual Professionalism, Redefining Excellence in Teaching and Learning with Dr. Barbara van der Ecken. And I'm going to hand over to the lovely Barbara. Thanks, Barbara.
Hello, really lovely to be here with you today to talk about dual professionalism and see how it really helps you to redefine excellence in teaching and learning. Really looking forward to our session and looking at the chat already. So many people from completely different corners of the country, different areas, different programs. So I think the conversations will be really useful for everyone and we can really share that best practice. So let's have a look at what we're going to cover. So obviously a short introduction, really thinking about dual professionalism, thinking about ETF and the professional standards, exploring those, looking at practical strategies, and then leaving you with actually enablers, barriers, and commitment to improving and developing your own professionalism. So really looking forward to that. The format and practicalities, informative, I hope, interactive as much as we can. We've got the chats function, we've got Menti, so we'll use as much as we can. We've got an hour. So if we could also, because I wanted to be reflective, if you've got a piece of paper or pad or your phone and notes, etc., would be great to have that by you. We're going to do a couple of activities where you might just need to jot down things to help your reflection. So make sure you're ready for that. Really focused on change and helping you to build your personal action plan. Comments, insight, that's why it's so great to have the chats. We're going to really share some of those ideas. You'll have all of the slides afterwards, so don't need to scribble everything. It'll be sent to you afterwards. And as always, this is a safe and supportive space where together we'll share and learn. As I say, the expectations are that it's going to be, you know, interactive, respectful, sharing ideas. We're going to consolidate your existing practice and hopefully deepen your understanding on some of those aspects, and then also enhance the culture of learning and collaboration within your own organisation, hopefully. So let's look at the introduction and what we're going to cover today. So we'll be looking at the first part will be around the concept of dual professionalism and its true relevance to you. Then we'll consider the standards, gain practical strategies around your practice so that you have real purposeful CPD, and then looking at those enablers and barriers, as I said. I think we've got most people in now, so we'll get going with the actual session and looking at the concept of dual professionalism and why it is so relevant to you. Now, you are all set members already, so you're already, I am sure, absolutely familiar with the concept of dual professionalism. And what I'd really like you to think of as we start here and we get people, I can see there's still people coming in now, is to think for a moment of when your dual professionalism has really made a tangible difference to your learner's journey. When do you know that having both sides of the industry knowledge and your pedagogical knowledge, how has that really enhanced the learner journey? What made that possible? So have a little think, and please start sharing in the chats a word, a phrase, something that made the difference as to why being a dual professional really helped your learners. And I'm going to give you a second to think about that, and then please start adding to the chats, and do read one another. And I can see realism, empathy, simulated activities, fabulous. Experience-based teaching that gave context to legislation. Yep, very important. Giving that broader picture and context. And that's because of your understanding that personal, oh, I like Claire, you said that personal, providing personal experience that gives that context. So having that personal experience of that industry was really useful. Sharing a typical day at work, I like that. So whether you're teaching, you know, the entry levels or really high level, whether you're doing lots of one-to-ones through maybe apprenticeships or in groups, setting today is about all types of delivery and how that dual professionalism can help. Case studies, thank you, that's really useful. Theory to workplace practice, so really seeing how it can be adapted. Relatable experiences. So there are, it's absolutely clear to me from what you're putting in there and your reflections that actually having the two sides is going to make a massive, massive difference to the impact that you're having on your learners. And if I share this screen, it really shows you the two sides in a more visual way. I'm a very visual learner, so you'll see quite a lot of those today. But it really shows and celebrates the multi-dimension of our role as practitioners. I might use practitioner, teacher, trainer today, different names. You'll know what you're called within your own institution. That subject expertise, how when you stay current with your industry knowledge, when you are absolutely current around the standards, the practices, the context. I mean, some of the things you've put in the chats already talk about that side so clearly. It really helps learners. And then the other side of your role, that pedagogical skills that you have, that continuously refining the teaching methods that you use, and how you're delivering that learning, that teaching to support effective learning is going to also make that massive difference, that impact you're going to have when you combine the two domains together. It really makes the learning more meaningful, the experience will be more relevant for the learners, and you're helping them with that career progression over time as well, with their next steps and where they want to go in their career or future, because you're linking it to the context, as some of you have said, and the real world. So really important to do that. And as I said, it's really important to recognize that dual professionalism is because you are seen not just as teachers or trainers or coaches, you're also seen as occupational experts. And it's really important that you've got that expertise both in the subject that you teach, but also in how to deliver it. I hope that's okay so far. If you want to put a little reaction that you agree with all of this so far. I don't know if you can put reactions on here. I can't see it on my screen. I've got too many little
Yep,
tabs open.
we can do
Uh,
reactions. I can see them
but
coming through now.
perfect. So good that we're on the same page as we start the session. I think looking at the next graph here, this dual professionalism in education, split into 4 sections, and you can see on one side, one of the axes is the subject mastery, so your industry or subject mastery, and then the other one is your pedagogical skills. You will see if we start with the bottom left, that novice teacher. We're all there at some stage. Some of you on the chat, maybe just at the start of your career in teaching. That's where many of us start. It's like you're new to teaching, you're building your subject knowledge. The impact that that will have potentially on your learners is that, if we think of that impact in the middle that we showed a minute ago, is that some of the learners might feel a little bit uncertain of where things are going. They might feel not supported in the right way. Progress of learners can be a little bit patchy because you haven't got that knowledge of how to sequence or scaffold the learning for them. So you will know if you're there that you have got a scope for enhancing both the subject knowledge and the teaching skills. Where you then would move sometimes is to skilled facilitator, where you know what you're doing, you've already done it for years, but your subject expertise is low. And I've had that over my career when I've been asked to start teaching on subject and programs that I've not done before. And so, although I'd been teaching for years, I felt like I was taking a step back because I wasn't at the top of my game for that program. Curriculum had changed. I was teaching French and Italian as my main topics, and then moved into Spanish, and I had to sort of work on that to really feel like I was, again, really good at my skills, although I knew how to teach it. What happens there is that you can really see you've got strong teaching abilities, your lessons are well structured, they're inclusive, but you might not be able to go into the depth of it, or like you've said earlier, you might not be able to relate it to the current practice or current knowledge. And so learners might struggle. They might not be able to connect what they're learning with the real world. And that again can cause some challenges there for them. So you can see having that the skills in the teaching is going to be really useful, but on its own it's still going to lead to some challenges for us and the impact we're having on learners. If we move to the bottom right now into the subject expert, and working with a lot of people within the apprenticeship field, we really value the expertise that subject matter expert, industry experts come in with. They know their area, their sector inside out, but because they've not yet learned all of the pedagogical skills, it can sometimes overwhelm the learners because you've not you've not scaffolded or made it accessible for your learners in the right way, so they might disengage for a little while. So because you've got that expertise, it doesn't necessarily guarantee the learning of the learners. So again, really useful to have. Where we're aiming for is obviously that top right section, which is when you've got that expert educator, that high impact teacher. You've got high pedagogical skills and high subject expertise. So that's really your sweet spot of dual professionalism. So it's a different way of showing it, where you've got really deep subject knowledge and you also completely master all of the skills that you need to deliver and have that really high impact. And this is where your learners will truly thrive. They feel challenged, they feel well supported, they feel inspired, they're learning, they're progressing towards their next steps, etc. So it's not just a mirror, a model. It's actually a mirror of where we sit at different times in our career. And it's also where we sit at times might really make that big difference. So I'm going to now give you a chance to really reflect for a few minutes. Where do you see yourself most often in your career? And it could be it's the beginning of the year, you've been given a new program, you might see yourself going between different ones. So just for a second, if you want to put it in the chats, please do so. Otherwise, just reflect, and you've got, I think, something, a pen or notes that you can take. But if you would just share some examples maybe of why you might move from one to the other, or why you're in a specific quadrant, a specific section there. Any thoughts? I'm going to look at the chat, see if anything is getting added. So you don't have to if you don't want to share, but just that thought of, are you moving around? Where do you see yourself now? Are you in between some of those quadrants? Just moved into IT from art. Exactly. Very different subject to teach. So you're probably in that really skilled facilitator, and then you've got to lift that subject expertise. I think it was Jane who said that, Jane. Depends on the subject that you're teaching, Claire, absolutely. And sometimes it depends on the groups that you're teaching as well. You feel like you really mastered, your teaching skills, and then you get a group that is completely different from what you're used to, and you've got to really adapt, and you're moving around a little bit more. So, Jenny, thank you. Sharing that you feel most comfortable when you are in the high impact, but absolutely true. We are supporting sometimes teams and have to teach different units, different topics, and then you might move around a little bit on that quadrant. Thank you for sharing, really, where how you're feeling around certain things, Sarah, as well. Skilled facilitators add the teaching skills, but little subject knowledge as you move to a new content. And we get that because in education, syllabus change all the time, content changes all the time. So we're never going to be able to stand still. Legislation and the whole world outside keeps changing. So that's why it's so important to really continue on this journey of oh, sorry, Jill, it says here slideshow, resume slideshow. Are you not seeing my screen anymore?
No, I'd ignore that, Barbara, because I can see your screen.
Okay,
Please
thank you.
do pop in the chat if that's not the case for participants.
Thank you. Sam, thank you for sharing a little bit more as well there. Skilled facilitator, high impact, and then changing. So it's really, really interesting, isn't it, to see how we move, and also to feel that that is completely normal, but that we know that it could have an impact on our learners depending on where we sit. If you are in that, I think some of you have just given that example. If you can speak the language of the sector, of the world that the learners will, operate in, obviously that impact will be much higher for the learners. Think of, I don't know, hairdressing apprenticeships, for instance, if they receive feedback that really blends into that technical precision with how to handle a client or something, and speaking in their language, it's going to have that real impact. So I think if you lack that confidence in the subject because you're new to it, completely new to it as a novice, learners can get very frustrated because they feel, I'm not getting anything out of this in terms of the real context, the real knowledge, and I'm not progressing in my learning in a very sequenced way either. So I hope that was useful, and it's going to take us just to look into the professional standards, why they exist, and which ones this session is really helping us to focus on. And I picked 5 out of the professional standards. You can do the full assessment around the professional standards. The link is here. You just go on the ETF website and you can do the full self-assessment on the 20 professional standards. We today really concentrating on 5 here. The reflecting on your own practice, engaging and promoting a culture of continuous learning and quality improvement. If we can do that for ourselves, it's much easier to promote it with our learners. You know, we are lifelong learners ourselves. Are we promoting that to our teams, to our learners? It makes a really, really big difference. Developing knowledge and update of your subject specialism, taking into account new practices, research and or industry requirements. You can see it's absolutely there. And then that review, applying your knowledge of educational research, pedagogy and assessment to develop that practice. And then the last one is also 18, which is actually to always provide up-to-date information, advice and guidance to the learners. So again, unless we are lifelong learners and we know what's happening out there, we're not going to be able to do that to the best of our abilities. Hope you use the professional standards. I would really recommend that you complete the self-assessment if you've got time. We're going to do some practical activities in a second that are going to focus more on the ones that I've picked for today. A new research has just been published by Martin James Hoskin from the School of Education, Languages and Linguistics from the University of Portsmouth in 2025. And I've just picked a few points that he makes in his research, which is around supporting teacher agency. And we talk about agency for our learners quite often, but it's really thinking about our teacher agency in terms of how it really helps to sustain our professional development. So I'm going to leave that on the screen just for a minute. I've highlighted some key words there to help us really think about the next section. Educational processes can be controlled by teachers and ought to be controlled by them, that agency that we want, and really reminding us that growth is achieved through a sustained process. So today we're going to look at where is it that you need to really focus on to continue on your development journey rather than actually trying to do everything at the same time. So it's that sustained process. I always say it's not like a whale jumping in the sea and one big splash and it's done. It's little dolphins constantly going at it and continuing to develop. So see yourself as little dolphins. Keep at your professional development. The other side is also that CPD is more transformative when teachers are granted that autonomy. So really working with leaders so that you've got clarity, they've got clarity on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and showcasing the initiative that you are taking to develop. And then the last bit in here is also around the communities of practice. To sustain your CPD, it is shown that actually those communities of practice is going to be an absolute support for you in terms of engaging in those shared experiences and really using that peer expertise to help with your practice. So I hope that's useful. There's some, again, key people there. I would, again, encourage you to look at their research if you're interested in some of those aspects. And Martin James Hoskin's report is also really, really useful. So it's really about that. It's really about our professional growth, which begins with that agency. Helping us to really own our self-development, to adapt it as and when we need it, to keep renewing what we're doing and self-learning because changing times. We need to be absolutely aware of what we're doing, of our own capabilities, which is why the professional standards survey diagnostic is really, really useful. And then setting yourself those goals and then monitoring and continuing, think little dolphin, to get to those goals. So that agency is really, really important. And I'm sure you really thinking about it for your learners, really helping them to own their learning. Well, we've got to do exactly the same in terms of our own development. So I'm going to move us on. Time always goes so fast in these, to actually some practical strategies. So here is where you're going to probably need a piece of paper and a pen. If you've not got that with you yet, I would encourage you to have that, or a pad, but it's going to be about drawing a little bit. So I don't think it's just about notes, but you could probably just reflect if you haven't got that. You might maybe listen as you're doing a little walk or something. Who knows where you are? So the wheel of dual professionalism. Now, one of the things I used to do with my learners was the wheel of life with learners in tutorials, really think about the different aspects. So today I thought it'd be quite useful to do that for us in terms of our dual professionalism. Two aspects we're going to be thinking of. What do I need to develop or strengthen to be seen as an expert in my subject and industry? And then what do I need to refine or deepen to deliver outstanding teaching and learning? I think when we were talking originally, as I sort of asked that first question, a lot of the responses were about the context, the industry, etc. I think thinking about that teaching and learning and your expertise there is going to be also absolutely critical. So a few questions for you before we start drawing our wheel. Industry subject expertise. Am I up to date with current industry standards or technologies? Do I have strong links with employers or professional bodies? Can I confidently translate workplace practices into learning? Some good questions there that helps us to start to shape where we're at. So start thinking about that. And then in terms of pedagogical expertise, do I design learning that is inclusive and engaging? Am I skilled in formative and summative assessments, and working in apprenticeships at the moment and with the reforms in assessment? I know this is going to be absolutely critical in terms of how we do that in terms of formative and summative assessments. So am I really skilled at it? Do I use feedback effectively to support learner growth? Loads of questions will come your way in a minute, but it's already hopefully making you think about where am I most maybe underdeveloped, where is my strongest stretch, and start to map our priorities. Is that helping you to reflect? Little signs, please, little reactions that you can start thinking of where you're at in terms of your wheel of dual professionalism. So now I will ask you to draw a wheel, as you can see on the screen. So probably about 10 segments in your wheel. We're going to imagine that 1 is right in the middle, 10 is right at the top. You don't have to do all of the things. Just think of 1 in the center and 10 at the top, and you can probably map it or put a number to help us create that visual. So if you could all do that, I'm just going to give you a second or two to create that for yourself. I'm going to go back, Jenny, to the questions in 1 second. I've got them coming back, so no worries about that at all. Is that okay? Have you got your wheel drawn? Can we see a little thumbs up when you're done? I can't see any of the reactions for some reason, so.
They're coming in now, Barbara.
Perfect. Once you've done your wheel, can I ask you to split it into 2 sides? One side is your subject and industry expertise. Your other side is your pedagogical expertise. And I've put on the screen some of the things you might want to put in each quadrant. And I don't want you to necessarily use the one that are on the screen. I want you to really focus on the ones that would make a real difference to you in your setting, depending on where you are on the initial quadrant that we looked at. So really think of what would be useful, but 4 or 5 aspects in terms of subject industry expertise that are of real value in your craft. So it doesn't have to be ones where you're necessarily low, it could be somewhere you're really high. Put some that are of real value within your institution and organization at this time. So you could have things like regulations, you can have technologies, your professional bodies, those strong links with employers, the right language that's used in industry, whatever it is that is really linked to your subject and industry expertise. And I've put subject there because obviously sometimes you don't define yourself as industry. It could be you're teaching English, for instance, so it could be quite different. So whatever it is that you feel needs to go there. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to add 3, 4, 5 aspects for your subject industry quadrant, and then do the same for the pedagogical side. That again is going to be absolutely linked to what it is that you teach, how you teach, what organization, is it one-to-ones, is it groups, is it apprenticeships, is it T-levels, lots of different things as we saw at the beginning. So what strategies are going to be really useful to you, of high value to your learners for your side, and then start mapping 4 or 5 within the other side of your wheel. Is it starting to shape up as your own wheel of dual professionalism? I'm just going to give you a minute or two. Once you've done that, if you've already managed to put some in each side, start to grade yourself and grade each segment. So 1 is actually where you would have more, you feel you've got more development, you're not where you want to be, and 10 obviously is you're absolutely already mastery in that aspect. So if you would start to grade them, it'll start to create a real visual for you where you can plot all of them and start looking at where you're at. It will really help you to map or prioritize your CPD. But also maybe start to really shape your professional identity. You might, as some of you have said, really see yourself as experts. How can you really develop the other one so you are a well-rounded expert? How's that going? Any feedback in the chats once you've done, if you want to, but I really want you to consider this as the starting point of your own CPD. So I'm going to give you a few more minutes to do this. Jill, if you can just let me know when you're starting to see some little thumbs up that people have got to a point where they're ready to move to, what do we do?
Yeah, nothing at the moment, nothing in the chat, so we'll just keep an eye on it.
I'll just wait a few minutes. I know it takes a while to really think about the ones that are going to be most useful to you.
Jenny's put in the chat.
Type of activity that is really useful to do within teams, for instance, with your team, and really looking at it and then having those really strong discussions around it. It's a nice activity, and as I said, we've done it very often as well with students in tutorials, but you can do the wheel of anything linked to your subject that you share with students. Where do they feel they are? You can put all of the different topics that you're going to cover and where they're at, etc. at the beginning of the year. It's a really nice activity to do. Jenny, really good to see that. Actually, you could be using that with your students in teacher training. Absolutely. Thomas, thank you for sharing that. So I need to improve my levels of comfort around emerging technologies and how I interact with learner experience. Fabulous. Fabulous. Will really make a difference to the way that you teach, and also, I suppose, to the emerging technologies could be useful, really useful for your learners themselves. AI, that could be a whole separate webinar. I suspect there probably are lots of webinars you can go on for AI. I'm just going to move us on. So where you are is really important. What I'm going to ask you now, and we said, you know, thinking of how do we move forward, is to actually move forward gradually. So where you score the lowest, but it doesn't have to be where you score the lowest, is where you feel as a professional you want to, you might be on an 8, but actually you feel at this stage in your career you need to be a 10. That might be the first one that you look at. If you're on 1, I would suspect you probably want to address it quite quickly as well, but it's not necessarily the lowest one that you want to start with. What would it take to increase it by 1? And then how could it be a 10? So I'm going to give you a few minutes to think, and you can just jot down, again, do 2 columns, pick some of the ones you'd put in your wheels that you want to now start to develop, and just have a little think about what is it that I want to do? How could I do that? And I think sometimes just moving it by 1 can make a massive difference, but also how could it be a 10? That's a different activity, because you're thinking longer term. You're moving potentially from CPD to really PDP. So you're moving from your like current professional development to really your longer term professional development plan to get to that 10. So if you've got 2 columns ready, start to have a little think about the ones that you want to really focus on. What would it take to move it by 1 as a starting point? And I'm going to give you some examples so that you probably already have some ideas, but I'm going to give you in a second some ideas for all of the ones that I mentioned earlier. And again, as I said, that also will be shared with you, so you might be able to tap into some of the other ones that maybe you want to work on in the future. Is that okay? You've got your 2 sections. I'm going to showcase first the pedagogical expertise. So whatever you'd put in that section and what you wanted to do, I've put some ideas of the aspects that I'd mentioned to start with. What does it mean, but also how you could develop it further, and then again linking it to the standards. So inclusive teaching and learning strategy might be one you want to work on, for instance. What it means to have that impact is that you want to really design learning that supports the different needs and different backgrounds. Types of activities you can do to develop is send ALN training, explore universal design for learning principles, for instance, from CAST, use learner voice to shape delivery, you know, and really listen to their feedback to really become more inclusive. Lots of different ideas. And I've done that in the grid here to really start thinking about how you can move it by 1 or 2 or 3 for each of those. So if you'd not really thought about the areas that you've jotted down for pedagogical expertise, I'll just give you a few minutes to start looking at what's on the screen at the moment and see whether you can tap into some of those ideas there to again support you with that development. And then we'll move to the industry one. And if you would maybe put in the chats the ones that you want to start with, the ones that you're adding to your top priority and the top activity that you may want to be doing. That would be really lovely to see that, to continue to improve your teaching skills or training skills. And the idea is really to have that real intentional approach. So we'll look in a minute about how to do that and who you need to surround yourself with to make sure that this happens. Give me a thumbs up if you're finding all of the ones that you want, and also, as I said, put in the chat some that maybe are not on the grid and that you want to really work on and develop. Thomas, you'd given us the technologies before, all of that ed tech, etc. So Tom, that was great to share that with us. Deepen my knowledge and understanding in a lot of the areas. Perfect, Claire, that'd be so useful. Curriculum delivery with institutional goals, achievement for those with particular GCSEs, incoming schools or females. Okay, that's really interesting, Sarah. And Sarah, just thinking about how you're going to do that. Is that on your own? Is it within teams, within a buddy from another area? How are you going to do that? Try and maybe in your grid and your plans, you can be as specific as you can. Hopefully that's useful. Another one is coming through, and then I'll move us on to the industry one. Digital pedagogy and tech use, one I need to continue to develop more than any others. Thank you for sharing that, Sam. Deliver remotely, absolutely. So it's always finding new ways of keeping that engagement going, absolutely. And there are many ways to do that. Sarah, subject delivery team, thank you. So perfect. I'm going to share the second one, which is all about industry expertise. I've put, for instance, the first one. I'll read the first one. I'm not going to read through all of it. It'd be mega boring. Talk about engagement in a webinar. Current regulation and compliance, for instance, what it means is really understanding the industry specific laws that are there at the moment, the current standards, the safety protocols, for instance, how you can develop that, attend industry briefing, maybe also subscribing to some updates, either LinkedIn or journals that are coming through, engage with AOs and EPAOs, for instance, that could really help you. It could be talking to specialists if you're in apprenticeships, for instance, really using your employers in the workplace to give you those briefings, and maybe attending some of those meetings that they have. So lots of different things that you can do. So have a look again in there. You can see that emerging technologies and trends is here as well, but not used to actually help you to teach, but actually to help you stay up to date with how emerging technologies and trends are being implemented within the industry that you work within. So I hope you're filling that grid that you started, that table, with more ideas that we really should go directly into your CPD plans. And as I said, some of the longer terms one where you want to get to a 10 will absolutely form part of your PDP. I'm going to give you just a few minutes. And again, if you want to do exactly like we did earlier, if you would put in the chats maybe some of the ideas that you have that are not necessarily on the screen at the moment, that are going to be the aspects that you really want to focus on in terms of that industry expertise that you want to develop. Just giving you a few more minutes just to look at this. And then hopefully I can maybe see a few more things in the chats. Industry is, I think, the one that's quite tricky. Some colleges, I know some independent training providers, I used to work in quite a number of them, also give you days where you can actually go and shadow or go back to the tools. Really useful to keep that in mind, and that you're creating some of those links where you can continue the conversations to really stay up to date with that expertise. I think I thought I'd seen something. Oh yes, popped up. Opportunities for industry partnership or experiences which may increase learners' understanding of possible future Absolutely, Sarah. And I think bring some employers. We used to say an employer in every classroom. Have the link for yourself, but also bring the employers to the to the classroom to support and improve that experience that learners have, because there's employers they can actually tap into and ask questions as well. Many employers are really happy to open their doors. Sometimes they do group sessions. Think about your chambers of commerce as well, where you can actually link up with a lot of employers, etc. I'm not seeing any more coming into the chats. I hope it's because you're scribbling away, trying to plan your CPD. So I'm going to move us on to the Menti now. We all want to get better and develop, but the day-to-day sometimes comes in the way. So I thought we'd do a little Menti. So if you've got your phone here, or if you want to go to menti.com and put the code 47106165 into the Menti, there's a little questionnaire there that asks us, ask you to sort of say and explain what gets in the way of your professional growth. Is it time constraints? Is it lack of feedback? So you actually don't know where you want to improve? Is it you're not quite clear on the expectations of your organizations or your team? And what expectations they have of yourself? Is it isolations? Is it limited engagement? Because you're not linking with the industry. So you should be able. I hope it's working. If you've
It is.
tested,
They're starting to come in. So we've got barriers from employer. Time is right in the middle. Huge. So a lot of people are saying that. Funding, misaligned priorities, limited engagement, organization culture, budget.
budget is true. Absolutely.
Budget and funding.
Yeah. Yeah, it is actually quite interesting. I've worked in many colleges where budgets were really tight, and I remember one year we had something like £20,000 for I can't remember how many staff, and then the following year we had like something like 2,000, and I had to be really creative with what there was. And that's, I think, where you can really be creative in using peers in the groups, using all of these free things that you can do, going to an employer's, joining a network. All of those things are not necessarily expensive. They might take more time. Sometimes you haven't got much time, so actually paying for something that's going to give you that knowledge is useful. So it's really balancing that so that it suits you. So a real range by the sounds of it, Jill, in
Yeah,
terms of
a couple of more's come in. So too busy with other stuff. They've got subject burnout or losing touch with the industry.
yeah. And I agree, sometimes we lose touch with the industry because we are entrenched within our college, and then we lose that. I think if we continue to put value, doing your wheel and really realizing the impact that it's going to have on your learners, the more you put value on that development, the one or two things you want to do, and really understanding, if I do this, it's really going to make me feel more motivated. It's going to help my learners be more engaged. They might achieve in a better way. They might be more ready for progression, and really linking it to yourself. I feel like I'm an expert in my field. If you put that value on it, somehow you're going to create that space and that time to do that. So hopefully, you can sort of help now. I'm going to move us on to the next slide. How do we grow, and what is it that we can do? So what can I do? How do you work? Are you a reflective person? Do you like that reflective practice where you're going to commit to maybe once a week? And I know I've got that in my diary. Friday, 4:30, I've got reflection time, and I just do half an hour and I just jot down a few things. I actually jot it down in my calendar invite. I don't even try to look anywhere else. I just put in my calendar invite just a few reflection from the week. That works really well for people. Some people prefer to work in peers, so find yourself a buddy within your organization. There might be some great buddies here on this webinar. If you've put something that you want to work on, there might be someone who might be really keen to work with you on something. We've had that in previous webinars where it's created that collaboration. Really be clear about standards or frameworks. So you could do that, the professional standards self-assessment, pick on one and really think, this is where I want to improve, this is what I want to do. And you know, you can go and retest yourself and see yourself grow. Some people really like to see that. Can you get supervision or coaching or mentoring within your organization to help you on a point, and go to someone who you feel is really, really good at teaching on a certain aspect? Can they be your mentor or your coach to support you with that? Can you create those industry partnerships, for instance, as we talked about earlier? Who are the employers, the groups that are already set up, where you could just commit to maybe joining a conference online or a webinar once a month, maybe, you know, an hour once a month, and you know you can then share that with learners. I think the great thing about this is you go on a webinar, you listen, it helps you, and then you will hear yourself in the next session talking about some of the new things that you've learned. And that is a really powerful way to add value, to see the value in what you're doing. So I think just think of your enablers, how you work best. And again, who are your who's the you team? Who's going to support you in getting that started? Is it your line manager? Is it your curriculum lead? Can you be part of a professional network or subject association? When I used to deliver modern foreign languages, there weren't many language teachers where I was teaching. Sometimes I was the only one just on an evening doing French, and that was it. So I had to find a group of modern foreign language tutors outside of it, and there was like a national group, and we could meet and have those discussions. So sometimes those subject associations are really, really good. Is it being part of an employer forum where you can take part in conversations, you start using that jargon within that realm, and then you bring that back to your learners? And I would say some of your learners might also be ready, adult learners, get them to, you know, join some of those forums as well. Obviously, ETF CPD platform, I can't not mention that. There's plenty there to help you to get support. And there is a mentor scheme as well, a mentoring scheme on Set an ETF, where you can find yourself a mentor, usually to support your teaching skills, but also for industry skills. But there might be some internal ones as well that you can use. So really think about what's going to motivate you. Is it going to be working on your own, working with someone? Think back of what we said at the very beginning, that actually the best ongoing and sustained growth comes from being part of a community. So I would say, see if you can find yourself a network, a community that can support you with your growth. So what I'd like to finish with today is really your commitment to yourself, to no one else. It is just genuinely for you. Map your strengths and your gaps. We've done the wheel. You might want to also do the, as I said, the SET Professional Standards diagnostic. Think about one area you might want to develop this term. Sorry if you're in apprenticeship, this quarter, this term, something you want to develop in the next few months, and really think about, pick one aspect. Don't feel overwhelmed by all of it. Focus will really help you. I always say focus beats overwhelm. So just focus on one or two. Move it up by one. Don't move it straight to 10. That's where you want to get to. Just really commit to deepening one aspect. Connect with a peer, a mentor, as we've said, have those conversations, those dialogues, even just find someone who can challenge your thinking, support your thinking, or co-reflect with you. You could do a Friday 4:30. Let's get 2 or 3 of us on a call and do, a weekly reflection. That's great as well. Just have a debrief before you go into the weekend and do a bit of reflection. How has it been like? What can I leave here and go off for my weekend without having to think about it? Because I've talked about it with a colleague, for instance. So form those micro communities maybe for reflection. Employer input, obviously. Maybe go and ask an employer that's local or that that supports the program that you're doing, and say, what do you wish our learners knew or could do better? And hear what they're saying. And if they tell you, oh, I'd love them if they were more prepared around XYZ, and then you can bring that to shape your curriculum or to assess in a different way. Trial a new teaching strategy. Go and observe, use peers, think of a new feedback model you might want to use, do a flipped learning. Just try one new thing in the next term. Try it with different groups in different ways, one that suits you, that really just experiment and reflect, but keep it small, keep it purposeful, keep it obviously learner focused. So once you see the impact that it's having, it's going to make you want to do more because it's making that difference. Obviously log your CPD with intent, as we've said, and hopefully what we've done today will help you to do that. And then use that prompt. I can see that I've changed. I'm moving quadrant section in the quadrant because I've done XYZ. So that'd be really nice. And then I think that promotion of it, share your practice, write a blog. I don't know if you've got a SharePoint or somewhere within your organization where you can, put something, or offer a CPD session. I've tried this term. Some of the colleges I work with do that at the end of each term. They come in and do a marketplace where they share something they've tried. Really, really good. Or post a LinkedIn, and a reflection on something you've tried. And then I think that last one is going to be key. Ask your learners for feedback. Ask them to reflect on, what helps them to learn best, but also ask them if they've seen any difference. Is something you've tried? Do they like that new approach? Do they, it's going to really help you to celebrate the impact that you're having, I think, and to feel strong as a dual professional if you do that and you hear that feedback from learners. So keep doing that. I hope it helps. And I would like you just for a minute now to really think about, what is it that you're going to commit to? And if you would actually add that maybe in the chats, because my last section is like your takeaways. What did you learn today and what's next for you? So if you would just put something in the chats, and whilst you do that, I'm also going to share the last screen, because otherwise I know that Jill will tell me off. There is a survey. We want to carry on. Lifelong learners, feedback is the food of champions. So please give me some feedback, give ETF feedback on the types of webinars that you want. Was it a useful session for you today? And if you would, yes, take your phone and respond to that. I don't know, Jill, if you can put the maybe survey link within the chats as well. It might just make it easier for people to access it before they leave. And yeah, if you can just share one, it'd be really, one thing that you're going to commit to be doing would be absolutely fantastic for me, so that I know you've got something out of this session and will move forward positively as a dual professional, really moving to being that high impact expert that you all are. Mentor for feedback. Thank you, Joe. That's really, really good. Importance of reflection and using reflection as target setting and ensuring take action even as a small step. Small step can lead to so many things. It'll open doors as you start. The key is to really make that start and moving it up by one. Emerging technology. Thank you, Offie, for sharing that. Duncan, good questions to challenge thought, dual professionalism. reflection, looking closely at yourself. Actually, we're constantly learning, aren't we? So let's keep looking at what we can improve. Mentor, time for reflection, when you're going to craft that time. And if you value it, you're going to find time to do that. Thank you, Claire. And it could be that your reflection comes when you're on the bus to work, or walking to work, or driving back. That could just be a few minutes of intentionally reflect. So that'd be great. Prioritizing CPD, have those conversation. Focus beats overwhelm. Absolutely. I used to do well, I do the end of week, but I also used to do the morning on Monday morning, 8 o'clock. I used to call it active eight, because it was at 8 o'clock in my diary, just to get me started. And for a few minutes, I used to activate and get ready for the week. So you could have the two bookends to your week, the activate and then the end of week reflection as well. Thank you very much. I hope it's been useful. Thank you for your openness in the chats and interaction, and I hope you're leaving with a little bit more learning and motivation to continue in your growth journey. Thank you so much.
And thank you very much, Barbara. It's been another fabulous webinar. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you.